Hello, welcome to Join Our Town. I'm Sherry Duckworth. Today is Jeff McKissick is with us, and he's the president of Defense by Design. Thank you for being with us again today, Jeff.
Sherry, again, always a pleasure to visit with you.
You're always here to talk to us about being safe and our personal safety, and you always give really great feedback to us, and we really appreciate that because I go home and I immediately start talking to my kids and my husband, and it's made me just a little bit paranoid, but in a good way.
Right.
You know, in a good way.
There is a healthy level of paranoia,
yeah,
yes.
I think so. So thank you, basically.
Oh, you're welcome.
For our viewers, though, that are seeing you for the first time today, can you give us just a little bit of background?
Well, I've been doing this now for 27 years. I've spoken probably in front of some 350,000 people by now and done a lot of radio and television like this, but really teaching people the basics of how do we live safer lives? How do we navigate the world that's out there? I don't want people living in a world of fear and paranoia, but I do want them to be more aware than they are right now.
Yes.
Because far too many instances are occurring out there where people could have seen things before they unfolded or escalated as they did, but they just did not know how to read the road signs. And so things happened, and then they look back and say, oh, I should have, I could have, I ought to have. And I don't want people to live into that world. I want them to look forward with 20/20 vision, not look backward with 20/20 vision.
So it's really just about being aware. It's it's about being educated, having the knowledge to know how and what to look for in the world that we live in on a daily basis, just to remain safe and to keep your loved ones safe as well.
And not be afraid to actually give other people assistance and help, but to do so applying some basic levels of discernment so that you're not just a good Samaritan, you're a safe Samaritan as well.
Right, because it's also good, you know, we want our children to be innocent, but we don't want them to be ignorant of the fact that there are bad people out there, or people who make unhealthy choices, I should say. And so they need to be aware of that so that they can also be educated and aware of their surroundings. So again, we're not here to instill fear, but we're here to help give people the knowledge they need, again, to remain safe. Let's start with the word profiling. We hear this word quite a bit when it comes to our safety, whether it be in airports or other areas in the public. What does that word exactly mean, and how should we consider it?
Well, it's one of my pet peeves. Most of the time when I hear people using that word profiling and I see how they're applying it and how they're going about it, it's really not what I would call profiling. It's more stereotyping because they're looking at appearances. They're looking at the appearance of the person, they're looking at their age, they're looking at their gender, they're looking at what part of town they're in. How many times have you heard something on the news where a tragedy occurs and witnesses come on, oh, I can't believe that happened in our part of town. I can't believe that happened in our neighborhood.
Right.
What, do you have a force field over your neighborhood versus everyone else? But they're actually stereotyping where they are as well as the people they're around, assuming that because of their circumstances that they're safe.
Right.
And they're not actually looking at what they need to be looking at, which is true profiling, behaviors and actions. I'll give you a perfect example. If we were in a parking lot, or you were in a parking lot one day and you were approached by a man coming up and his clothing was somewhat disheveled and he was kind of fidgeting and walked up and said, excuse me, ma'am, but I've got something on my car. Could you come and help me get this out of my car? What would probably be your instinctual response to that?
Oh, let's say run in the opposite direction. Yeah.
But now, if I were to have a woman approach you in the same parking lot, maybe nicely dressed, comes up, very nicely groomed, articulate, says, excuse me, ma'am, but I hate to ask you, but we're the only two women out here. I've just got to get something out of the trunk of my car and bring it up to the front of the mall. Would you mind helping me for just a second? What would be your response?
Ooh, that's a good trap right there. Because you feel safe, it's somebody that's similar to, let's see, myself, and I'm going to feel comfortable.
See, and that's where I'm talking about the difference between stereotyping and profiling. Stereotyping, we looked at two individuals, one that seemed to be kind of scary and the other who seemed to be innocent or at least as vulnerable as we would be, and go, oh, then she must be safe, but he has kind of a sketchy appearance.
Right.
True profiling looks at behaviors and actions, says, wait a second, you have two people, neither of which you know, who are asking you to leave where you are and go somewhere with them.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of appearances. See, again, this is profiling. Forget all the outward appearances and get to the heart of the matter. Two different people, but they share something in common. They're unknown to you.
Right.
And yet they're asking you to go with them somewhere.
That's good. I mean, it really helps you to stop and go, wait a minute. They're both asking me to do the same thing.
Right.
I'm unsafe with either person because I don't, like you said, I don't know them, and they're asking me to leave and go somewhere else.
Right.
So we should never do that, no matter what the person looks like, obviously.
Well, true. And there are ways to discern, okay, is this a potentially harmful situation? Can I be a good Samaritan?
Right.
And that's some of the things I teach and others that we're working with or teaching out there in the public. We want you to be empowered to help the good people.
Yes.
But we want you to be wary in case this is a not so good person, but using a good story.
Right. So.
And that's the difference.
Red flags. How do you know the difference?
Well, anybody that approaches you and asks you to go with them and you don't know the person and you don't know where you're going, and there's a chance that if you go there, something can happen that you're not going to be able to control and others aren't going to be able to come to your assistance.
Right.
That should cause a red flag.
Okay.
And I constantly tell people the two questions you ask is, where is this person asking me to go and what are they asking me to do? And by really applying those two key questions, you can kind of sift through the fact, is there the potential? And that's all we're asking. Is there the potential for something going wrong here? And it doesn't mean you can't move forward, but if you do so, at least when you're moving forward, you do so with your eyes wide open.
Right. And
you're a lot more aware as you're going to help them get maybe something out of their car and looking around to see if a third or fourth person comes in on the scene.
Right. Well, I think it's good, and even if someone doesn't mean any harm, it would probably be a good eye-opening moment for someone to say, you know, that doesn't make me feel safe. I don't know you, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. For them to go, well, wait a minute, if I really need help, maybe I should approach this differently so I'm not, you know, coming across as somebody who could be dangerous.
Right.
So how you present yourself is also incredibly important.
But that, to me, is profiling. Is when you're looking at behaviors rather than appearances.
Yeah.
And so there is some training involved, is learning how to discern those situations and those people. But it's not as difficult as we make it out to be.
I see. I like that, looking at the behaviors. Now, there's two different thoughts, environmental awareness and situational awareness. You've brought these points to me. Kind of help us to understand the difference between the two.
When most people say environmental awareness, what they really are probably referring to is situational awareness. And let me distinguish and give some operational definitions. If I'm talking about environmental awareness, I'm being aware of this table. I'm being aware of this chair. I'm being aware of the cameras. I'm being aware of the light, because that's the environment. The situation, however, may be totally different. Situations can escalate. Situations can come out of the blue. Perfect example, I was speaking outside of Dallas-Fort Worth a couple weeks ago, and a CEO invited me into his company down in the Austin area, and one of their branches in Denver, Colorado, one of their women had just been attacked at the first of the school year. She dropped off her daughter for the first day of junior high. She was on her way back home to clean up and go to work. She stopped to pump some gas. A man pulls in, jumps out of the car, and starts just berating her in public. You cut me off in traffic, blah, 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 blah. Well, she was taken aback, as were people at the gas station, but they distracted him long enough for her to get in her car and leave. She told the CEO and his assistant later, I knew I should have called the police. I knew I should have stuck around, but I was thinking, I'm running late for work. I have to go home. When she got to the home, she didn't realize the man had followed her to her home.
Oh, no.
And as she was about to go in the front of her house, she got hit in the back of the head with something. They later figure it was a crowbar or a tire iron.
Oh, my gosh.
She was unconscious the entire day out in the front yard till her daughter came home from school that afternoon and found her mother in the front yard.
That's terrible. Oh, my goodness.
And she was in a coma for 2 days. She's still recovering. She's not in charge of all of her faculties yet at work. So here's a situation. It had nothing to do with the gas pumps, had nothing to do with the cars there, had nothing to do with the people there. It was a situation that escalated and exploded on the site. That was the cause for concern. Now, where environmental awareness comes into play is there some place I can run? Is there some place that I can use as a buffer between me and the other person? So that's where environmental awareness comes in. But where most people really need to focus on, in addition to that profiling aspect, is situational awareness. Evaluating situations that you find yourself in where things can turn bad very quickly. You're in a restaurant, maybe with your husband, and all of a sudden you hear an argument erupt, and maybe someone stands on a table, maybe they throw something. See, that has nothing to do with your environment. That has to do with now with a situation that's arisen. That now you have to evaluate the situation. You may take into account your environment. Where's the nearest exit? Let's get out of here,
Exactly.
honey. But still, it's the situation you have to evaluate. Could this get even worse than it is right now? What are the telltale signs? So when most people say people need to be more aware of their environment, I say actually they need to be more aware of how to evaluate situations, more so than the environment.
That's really good, because we are more concerned about what things look like around us and aren't always paying attention or as concerned with the situation. As you say, we're not always looking for that.
Right, and the environment could come into play. In fact, I do some situational type programs where I'm teaching people. I was doing this for a group of attorneys here recently. We're saying, you hear shots fired at the courthouse, you hear shots fired in the law firm. There is a difference between, and the military teaches us, between cover and concealment. Concealment hides you, but it doesn't protect you. I can hide behind one of these curtains, but if someone is shooting a gun, that's not going to protect me.
Right.
But if I go behind a brick wall, that is now cover. It's something that protects me. And same token, if someone had a knife, you could use your purse potentially. You could use some object that's solid as cover, as opposed to holding up simply a scarf or a sheet, a bed sheet or something else that may conceal you, but it's not going to provide you protection. So again, that's another level of environmental awareness. Yeah. So there are places to learn the difference of how to use your environment to your advantage. But again, that all still comes down to, is the situation at hand escalating where I now need to be looking and how to use my environment?
So you're dropping all these great nuggets of wisdom into our heads.
I'm trying.
So it's wonderful because, if you are in a bad situation, you're not going to think about, okay, well, let's see, what did I hear in that interview that day? It's just going to hopefully be in there and you'll be able to recall it when you need it. I mean, that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
That, you've heard this and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Where can I hide? Where am I protected? Mm-hmm. What do I need to look for? Am I paying attention to what's going on around me? Do I need to be more concerned? Do I need to look for those exits?
And this is what we're talking about. This is critical thinking.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something not taught in school. It's not taught in college. It's taught in police academies. It's taught in the military. But it's not taught to average citizens. And yet average citizens are the ones falling prey many times to these types of crimes because they don't understand those differences.
Right, and oftentimes we have a false sense of security as well,
right.
Or we're not always thinking about this. We're thinking about what we need to do next. I mean, we live in a very busy society, so we're thinking about, I need to go run this errand, I need to go do this, I need to be there by this time.
Right.
And so we're not paying attention to the man who's walking up to us at that moment because we're trying to get in our car and make a call on our cell phone.
Or worse, bingo.
You know?
Or we're walking through the parking lot, texting and looking down here instead of looking around us.
I mean, seriously.
Situational awareness.
It's true. I mean, we all do it.
Yes.
We all do it, and we're not all paying attention. We all have our moments, and so this makes us stop and go, wait a minute. I need to put my cell phone away. I need to get to my car, get inside the car first, make sure I'm safe, then make my phone call.
Yes, thank you.
Then get my text message. And I know I'm so guilty of that. I am. And I'll have, God forbid, I have my kids with me doing it, and they could be in danger too. So this is good. This is really good information for all of us. It makes us more aware, and it's very humbling too, because you stop and go, oh gosh, I do that, or I didn't pay attention to that, and hopefully it'll make us all do better. We know better, we do better.
And that's the goal. That's the goal. Just to make people stop, think, reevaluate, and move forward in a proactive posture.
Now, if we want to learn more about how to do this and maybe have more concentrated time with you or someone like you, how can we get more information so we can teach ourselves and others?
Well, obviously, I offer seminars in the public and the private sector, companies and corporations, even churches.
Yes.
I just did an interview yesterday, or a teleseminar for the National Association of Church Business Administrators. But I regularly do continuing education seminars for doctors, lawyers, attorneys, people in the various fields.
Awesome.
But just defensebydesign.com.
Awesome.
Reach out to me there.
We appreciate you so much for coming and talking with us again, Jeff.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you for coming, and thank you all today for watching us here at Joy in Our Town.